Hello everyone, we are about to see how to play the game Athangudi Artisans of Chettinad by EXO to EXO Games. This game is inspired by Athangudi tiles. Athangudi is a tiny village in the Chettinad region of Tamil Nadu in South India. The village is famous for handmade floor tiles made by local artisans. These colorful tiles have geometric patterns and are coveted by homeowners and architects. We have here a tiny demonstration of how Athangudi tiles are used to lay a floor. If you're already familiar with the concept, you may want to skip ahead to the components. I have here with me 4 Athangudi tiles. Mind you, these are not the real ones, those are made of cement and much larger. Note that this is not part of the game and it is purely for the purpose of demonstration. Each tile has patterns on its corners. Depending on the complexity of the pattern, they may be on one corner, 2, 3 or sometimes even on all 4 corners. This particular tile has pattern on 2 opposing corners. And when 4 of these come together, they form a beautiful motif at the center. And when several tiles of these are laid together to form a floor, they create a beautiful repetitive pattern. This is the concept based on which this game has been created. Athangudi Artisans of Chettinad is a game for 2 to 4 players. It takes about 30 to 40 minutes to play. In this game, you will play a master artisan who has to lay the floor of a Chettinad mansion. The most impressive floor at the end of the game will score the highest and win. Let's take a look at what's inside the box. The box comes with a standard rulebook. There are 101 tiles which you will play with. There's a scorecard for you to keep track of your score during the game. And there's also a pencil to help you record the score. In the box, you'll find 3 types of tiles. The first kind is called a storage tile. There are 16 of these, 4 of each color. Each color is supposed to be chosen by one player, and since up to 4 people can play this game, there's one color for each player. The next kind of tile is called a goal tile. There are 15 of these, 3 of 5 types. You can use this to create goals which you can complete during the game. The third type of tile is the one you will use the most while playing the game, and these are called playing tiles. There are 70 of them and each of these have different patterns on them. Let's now see how to set up this game. The game is set up in the same way irrespective of the number of players. But for the sake of simplicity in this video, we are going to set it up only for 2 players. The first thing to do is to choose the color of your storage tile. Each player has to choose a single color and pick up all 4 of the same color. Here we have chosen blue and pink for the other player. Lay them out face up in front of each player as shown here. The next thing to set up are the goal tiles. There are 15 goal tiles, out of which you have to pick any 9. Lay them out in 3 columns of 3 each. Each of these columns now becomes a goal. You can lay them out in any fashion you want, but remember that the same pattern should not come next to each other. For example, these 3 are valid goals, but this one is not. The final thing to set up are the playing tiles. Lay all of them out in the center of the table, easily accessible to all. You can either lay them in piles face down so that everyone can reach them, or if you prefer, you can leave them in the box and everyone can access them from the box. Also, pick up one of the scorecards keep it next to one of the players who can track the score. The setup is now complete and you are now ready to play. Let us now see how to play this game. The game is played in the same way for 2, 3 or 4 players. The game is played over 4 rounds. Over 4 rounds, you will build your floor with playing tiles. The floor at the end of the game will contain 16 tiles and must be a 4x4 square. The higher scoring floor will win. Each of these 4 rounds follows the same 5 steps. All these steps are played simultaneously by all players. Let's go through these 5 steps one by one now. Step 1 is pick tiles. This stack of playing tiles that we place during setup is called the supply. In step 1, players have to pick tiles from the supply. Each player has to pick 4 tiles blindly from the supply. You can pick them from anywhere you like. Just remember, it has to be picked blindly. So player blue and player pink both pick 4 tiles each. You can pick simultaneously. However, in 3 and 4 player games, this can get a little chaotic. So you can also pick sequentially in any order you like. But remember that steps 2, 3 and 4 and 5 have to be done simultaneously. While you have to pick blindly, once you have the tiles, you are allowed to take a look at them. Let's take a look at what player blue has picked up, and let's also take a look at what player pink has picked up. These 4 tiles that you just picked up are called your inventory. The 4 tiles that you pick up in step 1 plus any tiles that you may have on your storage spaces from previous rounds form what is called your inventory. Now let's move to step 2. Step 2 is pass tiles. You can pass tiles only from your inventory. Like I said, the 4 tiles that you picked up plus any tiles on your storage form part of your inventory. At the moment, we don't have anything on our storage. So right now we can only pass from what we just picked up in step 1. You can choose one tile you would like to keep, and the remaining 3 tiles are then passed face down to the player on your left. In this case, since there are only 2 players, that is player pink. At the same time, player pink can also choose one tile that they would like to keep and pass the remaining 3 face down to player blue. We can now take a look at the 3 tiles we just received from the other player. These 3 tiles now form part of the inventory along with the tile which is already on your storage. In the next stage of passing, you have to pass 2 tiles to the player on your left. Let's assume player blue would like to keep this and pass these 2 face down to player pink. Player pink would like to keep this and pass these 2 tiles to player blue. We can now look at our updated inventory. Let's assume player blue is interested in both these tiles he received. In the next stage of passing, you have to pass one tile to the player on your left. Since the tiles which are already on storage are also part of the inventory, player blue can choose to give away this tile to player pink while keeping both these tiles. Player pink can keep this tile and give one last tile back to player blue. The last tile that is received is something that players have to keep without any choice. At the end of round 1, all players would have received 4 tiles in their inventory. To quickly recap step 2, from the 4 tiles which are picked up in step 1, players have to progressively pass 3, 2 and then 1 tile from their inventory to the player on their left. This will help all players collect 4 tiles at the end of each round. Let us now move to step 3. Step 3 is place tiles. In this step, we will start to build our floor. Remember, the floor is what we are trying to build to score points, and it is a 4x4 grid made up of 16 tiles which will be complete at the end of 4 rounds. In round 1, we have collected 4 tiles. And in step 3, we have to place at least one of these tiles from our inventory into the floor. If you choose to, you can keep up to all 4 of them into your floor. Tiles can be placed into the floor in any orientation. They can also be placed anywhere. They can be adjacent or they can also be disconnected. Player blue is choosing to keep 3 tiles at the moment into his floor. If he wishes, he can also place another tile here or anywhere else as long as the 4x4 grid is maintained. Player pink, on the other hand, wishes to place only one tile into their floor, which is the minimum requirement in step 3. We now move to step 4, which is wrap up. Wrap up is simple. It involves discarding one storage tile at the end of the round. So player pink also discards one storage tile. At the start of the second round, both players will have only 3 storages available to them. Step 5 is scoring. You can use the scorecard to record your scores at the end of round 1. There's a column provided, and for all players you can score. We will go into the details of scoring in a separate section. Now that 5 steps are done, we repeat the same process all over again for round 2. Both players pick up 4 tiles from the supply. Then we move to step 2, which is pass tiles. For player pink, in their inventory, you can notice their storage is full. If they have to free up storage, they will have to place one of these tiles into their floor before they can keep something from the tiles they just picked up onto their new storage. Otherwise, they can also directly place whatever they picked up directly into their floor and pass the remaining 3 to player blue. Play now continues. By passing 2 tiles. And then finally 1. After passing tiles is complete, players have to place at least one at the end of the round into their floor. And then wrap up by discarding one storage tile at the end of round 2. And then proceed to scoring for round 2 in the column provided. The same steps are repeated in rounds 3 and 4 until your floor is complete in a 4x4 fashion with 16 tiles. For the sake of brevity, we are going to skip ahead directly to scoring. Let's now take a look at how scoring is done. There are 4 ways in which you can score points. We'll go over them one by one. The first way to score points is by forming a motif. A motif is formed when 4 tiles are brought together and their corners meet to form a pattern such as this one. So this is a valid motif while this is not. There are 5 such motifs which you can create, and creating any one of them any number of times gives you 1 point each. The second way to score points is by forming a sequence of centerpieces. A centerpiece is this symbol which is found on the center of all playing tiles. There are 5 different centerpieces and you can form sequences with any of them. The only constraint is that a sequence should contain the same centerpiece. You can form a centerpiece sequence of 3 in a row. This can be horizontal, vertical, or even diagonal. They can even share centerpieces among them. Each of these sequences of 3 in a row scores 1 point each. This configuration, for example, will score 1 point, 2 points, and 3 points. A total of 3 points for each of the sequences created with 3 centerpieces in a row. The third way to score points is quite simple really. It's by forming a centerpiece sequence of 4 in a row. This scores 2 points per sequence. Like the 3 sequence, this can also be either horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. The fourth way to score points is by completing goals. Remember these 3 goals that we set out at the start of the game? You can complete any of these to score points. You can complete them once or more than once and score accordingly. To make a goal, you have to get motifs in the exact order that is shown in the goals that you set out at the start of the game. The order can be read either top to bottom or bottom to top. But for this goal, the flower should always come in the middle. You can form goals by getting them vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. As you can see, completing goals takes a little bit of planning, and that's why you're allowed to complete goals in a couple of other ways. You can also complete goals in an L shape. This goal, for example, is completed in an L shape here as well as here. You can also complete goals by wrapping them around the edges. Let me explain what this means. This goal has been completed here by having the first motif here, half of the flower on either side, and the third motif over here. This goal is said to have been completed by wrapping around the right and the left edges. Let's take the case of this goal. The blue star is here, the brown diamond is here, and half of the blue star is wrapped around the top and the bottom edges. So in this frame, we have 2 goals completed by wrapping around the edges. Completing a goal scores 2 points. You can complete the same goal multiple times, but you have to take care to ensure that the same goal does not have any shared motifs. For example, here this goal is completed twice. However, this motif is shared between both the goals. So here you will score only 2 points for this goal. 2 different goals can share the same motif, but to complete the same goal twice, they need to have distinct motifs. To quickly recap, we have seen 4 ways to score points. You can form a motif, you can form sequences of centerpieces, either 3 or 4 in a row, or you can complete goals. Each of these 4 methods are scored at the end of each round. If something is scored in a previous round, it still continues to be scored in subsequent rounds, and this is important to remember because you have an advantage the earlier you score. After round 4 is complete, there is one more scoring that is left to be done, and this is called endgame scoring. This is done only after all players have finished their floor and have 16 tiles in a 4x4 grid. This is done by counting the number of half motifs that are there along the edges. Half motifs which may exist anywhere in the center are not counted. In this particular example, we have half motifs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. You score 1 point for each of the half motifs, and so this particular configuration will score 7 points in endgame scoring. If you find all of this a bit overwhelming to process all at once, don't worry, we have made it easy for you on our scorecard. The scorecard mentions all of the point scheme and when to score, and you can easily find your way around. To make things very clear, we are going to go through a quick simulation of scoring after each round. For the sake of brevity, we are only going to explain the scoring of one player's floor. Consider this scenario. We are now at the end of round 1 and this is the first time you will score. One of the storage spaces has been discarded. One of the playing tiles is retained on the storage by the player and 3 tiles have been chosen to be placed into the floor. We can see there are no motifs, no sequences and no goals completed. So the score at the end of round 1 for this player is 0. We now jump ahead to the end of round 2, which is when the next round of scoring happens. At the end of round 2, 2 storage spaces have been discarded and the player has collected 8 tiles, all of which he has chosen to place into his floor. We can see that 2 motifs are completed. Each motif scores 1 point. So for the motifs, there is a total of 2 points that is scored. We can also see the player has made 2 sequences of centerpieces which have 3 in a row. For each of these, he scores 1 point. So 2 points in total for the centerpiece sequences. So at the end of this round, 2 points for the motifs and 2 points for the centerpiece sequences. The player scores a total of 4 points at the end of this round. We now jump to the end of round 3. As you can see, 3 storage spaces have been discarded. There are a total of 12 tiles collected, all of which have been placed into the floor by the player. Let's proceed to score. Let's count the number of motifs. There are a total of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 completed motifs, scoring 1 point each. So that is 4 points for the motifs. We see that the sequence of 3 in a row have now been converted into a sequence of 4 in a row. We now count only as 4 sequences and these score 2 points each. So he gets a total of 4 points from the 2 sequences of 4 in a row. We can also notice he has managed to complete one of the goals. In fact, he has completed the goal twice. This is once and once by wrapping around the edge. But remember, if the same goal is solved twice, it needs to have distinct motifs. Here, this particular motif is shared and so the goal is counted only once. He scores 2 points for this goal. So 4 points for motifs, 4 points for the 2 sequences and 2 points for the goal. At the end of round 3, he scores 10 points for this configuration. We now jump to the end of round 4. All the storage spaces have been discarded. There are 16 tiles in a 4x4 square and the floor is complete. This is at the end of the game. Let's go for round 4. There are a total of 6 motifs which have been completed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He scores 6 for the motifs. There is a 3 sequence which is completed here. He scores 1 point for the 3 sequence. The 2 4 sequences which were there in the previous round continue to be scored here. This scores an additional 4 points. Finally, we see this goal has been solved twice. Once over here and once over here. There are no shared motifs between them and so he scores +2 and +2 for each of these goals. So there are 6 for the motifs, 1 for the 3 sequence, 4 for the 2 4 sequences and 4 for the goals. This brings a total of 15 for this. All that is left now is the endgame scoring. Let's count the number of half motifs along the edges. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he scores 7 as endgame scoring. To quickly recap, the score at the end of round 1 was 0, at the end of round 2 was 4, at the end of round 3 was 10, at the end of round 4 was 15, and endgame scoring was 7 points. This brings the blue player to a final score of 36 points. Scoring is done in the same fashion for all players. The player with the highest score wins the game. At the end of the game, if the scores are tied between certain players, the way to resolve the tie is as follows. Count the number of completed motifs for the tied players. If one of the players has a higher number of completed motifs, they are declared the winner. If the number of completed motifs are tied, count the number of half motifs along the edges. If one of the players has a lead in this, that player is declared the winner. If there continues to be a tie, then the victory is shared. That wraps up our how to play video of our game Athangudi Artisans of Chettinad. We hope you will enjoy hours of fun with your friends and your family with this game. Thank you.